What if astrology is actually more than just an assortment of symbols on a page? What if it's an actual written piece of music? In other words, what if you could literally feel and hear the tones and frequencies as they move through your chart? In this video, I'm going to explain a fascinating and very real connection between sound, frequency, and astrology, what I call Astrosonics. I'll explain how it works, I'll give you a sense of what it sounds like, and I'll show you how this can alter our perspective and literally change the way we understand our astrological charts. Welcome, my friends, to the relaunch of the music in the stars, and let's get into it. Everything is vibration. Every object, every color, sound, feeling, emotion, sight, smell, all have a measurable rate of vibration. A frequency. This is science, not New Age theory, science. So in that light, if everything vibrates, then so too must the planets and signs of astrology. They are literally measurable patterns of movement, each putting off a specific tone. In other words, musical notes. Astrologically speaking, then, these tones mingle and intertwine in countless ways as we see reflected in the natal chart. And these relationships can actually be translated into a musical language and then transposed into sound compositions that can be both felt and heard. Of course, then the next obvious question quickly becomes, what notes are associated with which planet and sign? And I'll share the details of all of this in a future video because the patterns and cycles of mathematics of that particular journey is equally as fascinating. But here's the essence. In the Astrosonic framework, astrology, planets, signs, aspects, each of these can be translated into musical notes, thus transposed into a musical composition, which we can feel and hear the relationships of the planets, be it in the transits happening right here and now, or in our natal charts. It's a fascinating and mind-blowing approach to astrology. So why does this matter? How is this at all applicable to your daily life? Consider this. Sound is one of humanity's oldest healing tools. It moves through us on a cellular level. It bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the body, the heart, to our subconscious. It can help restore coherence to the nervous system. It can release stored emotion and literally reconnect us with the natural rhythms that we so easily seem to forget in this fast-paced life experience. Now imagine receiving sound frequencies specifically tuned to your own astrological chart. Instead of just general relaxation, you're now tuning into your personal cosmic signature, your individual astrosonic frequency. You're remembering and reconnecting with the vibrational blueprint you were born with. So let's share a few examples of what an astrosonic composition sounds like and what it is. I like to explain it in a way that instead of using words to describe to you your chart and what it means, I use music, I use tones, I use sound and frequencies so you can feel your chart and lean into it in a way that's from a subconscious level. It's not an intellectual thing to overthink, which, gosh, that's something that we all do. It's really an opportunity to step away from overthinking and go into, let's overfeel it, right? Let's go into that realm. I'm not going to go too deep into my process of how I get from point A to point B, of how I get from a natal chart to an actual full sonic composition. However, likely I will do a video that goes much deeper onto that in the future because super important and it's super fascinating. I think you'll really enjoy how that unfolds. But for right now, let's just go ahead and listen to a few examples. So, as you know, I go in every sign, every planet, every aspect, we move it into musical notation, and from that, it's revealed the dominant scale that one's chart would be in. And so I really work off of that. All of the modes and all of the intervals that I choose from that point on are based on that original dominant scale. Now it's interesting because not every note is going to be perfectly within that scale because some planets don't completely align with that, which is a clue. That's telling us what I'm calling balancing tones. Like if, for example, if your sun was half a step off from the scale, that's saying that, oh, there's a part of ourselves, our true core essence, that is seeking to be balanced. It's seeking to like move up a half step, move up to the next sign. Like for example, if it's in Aries, it wants to actually be a little more in Taurus, right? And so you resonate with that tone, or that tone becomes a balancing tone within your scale. And I've likely gone too far in my explanation here already, but I just want to point out that there's all sorts of sub directions that the music takes us, that the astrology takes us. But let's listen to a few examples. So I'm working on a composition right here, and I haven't completed it yet, but nonetheless, it'll give you an idea of how this works. So I take the low tone, the outer planets, right? The outer planets represent, we all share those, or generations share those. They sort of represent the undercurrent of the framework of which we paint our lives on. And so as you can hear in this composition, I've got Pluto in this like undercurrent. And what I've done is I've created this arc where Pluto is like swimming in the background through there. And I have Saturn also in there as an undercurrent. But then I do these tones that come up that represent Neptune, represent Uranus, and just the feelings that those incite. And again, this particular one is tuned specifically to his chart. And you'll hear, let's hear Neptune come in. I've used voices in that sense. Neptune is the dreamer, the visionary, the essence within ourselves that expands beyond the emotional landscape. Now Uranus coming in. Neptune. So again, as you can see, I'll start to interweave how those notes interact and play with one another. And I'm not yet going into the aspect nature. It's more just to hear them. Now we will. So that's a quick example of how it starts to unfold, right? But then it's, as we come down from the outer planets, we're going to move into the personality. We're going to get closer into the inner planets and how they interact and how they move a bit faster. So more melodic tones will come in at that point. And it's a very meditative experience. The way that I see this is a way to step away from the loudness and busyness of the world and really lock into that essence. Take a moment to be into your breath work, into the silence of who you are. It's a sacred moment, right? And so I really designed this music to represent that sacredness within you and to ideally retune you, recalibrate you back to that essence of who you truly are. So that's what's going on here, in my opinion, in my work. And so as it moves through, and it's also worth noting that the way that I design these compositions, I have them unfold in a spiral formation, the Fibonacci sequence, that some of you may be familiar with, but it's basically like the awakening of a seashell, right? Like how a seashell unfolds, a pine cone, the spirals of nature. And so I interwove that unfolding in how the composition itself unfolds, like in the intervals that I choose. And as I do a key change, it happens at a certain point which represents that same unfolding, which again aligns with nature, which aligns with the planet, aligns with the cosmos. So that's the idea here, an alignment musically with the self, musically with the cosmos. We get to a point where I call the golden phi. Now this is where I'll go major. If it's in a minor, I'll end up going major at this point. So it starts, at this point we're working with the planets and the aspects of how they create maybe a little bit of tension. And then I'll awaken it. And so it's this real sense of ease and release at this point. And again, specifically tuned to this person's chart. So this is the interplay with the inner planets now. and how they relate to the outer planets. So it goes down a little bit to like a half step there, right? But it's a powerful and amazing journey of like how this all pieces together, how it all comes together, how it just speaks to a deeper part of ourselves. And yeah, it gives us an opportunity to take a completely brand new perspective of self-understanding and self-awareness. So that is such a brief explanation of what I'm doing here. And let's keep going. For me, astrology has always been about uncovering our personal truth, a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning and connection to ourselves and the greater cosmos. Music for me has always been about inspiration, a way to open the heart, open the emotions, and connect on a way that steps deeper than just intellect. Now these two paths are crossing and coming together, and I'm so grateful that I can do this, and I'm super excited to see exactly where this goes and to share this with you all. I thank you so much for being here with me today. If this subject inspires you, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, or sharing this video with someone who also might find it meaningful. If you'd like to hear your own personal chart translated into sound and music, you can visit my website at themusicandthestars.com. And if you'd like to support this channel further, please consider buying me a coffee at the link below. Again, I thank you so much, and your encouragement and support mean everything.